At my farewell party, my supervisor toasted, "We're really going to miss having someone to blame when things went wrong." Laughter rippled across the room as I held my smile. Days later, a mass email was sent out from an anonymous source with documents attached that exposed years of cover UPS, lies, and manipulation. And it was only the beginning. I worked for a consulting firm in Fort Worth, Texas called Dove's Ton Consulting. We weren't huge, but we handled enough government contracts and corporate audits to matter. Our clients trusted us with sensitive data and decisions that had real impact: environmental reports, regulatory filings, internal process reviews. It was the kind of job where messing up could lead to lawsuits or government fines. I started at Dove's Ton 10 years ago, fresh out of college, hungry to prove myself. I worked hard, stayed late, skipped vacations. I moved up slowly. Data analyst, then project coordinator, eventually managing my own teams. I thought I was building a career. What I didn't know was that I was also building a reputation, one I didn't create. For years, I was the one they blamed when things went wrong. It didn't happen all at once. At first it was small. A delay on a project got pinned on me. Hal, my supervisor, said I hadn't flagged the issue early enough. I had in an email, but somehow it never made it into the official project folder. Next time, a client presentation had errors. Hal claimed I hadn't reviewed it thoroughly. But I had reviewed it. Hal had changed things last minute, without telling me. It kept happening. Every time a mistake was made, somehow it pointed back to me. I worked harder. I tried to double and triple check everything. But nothing helped. Hal would smile to my face, say, "Don't worry, I've got your back." Then he'd go behind my back and tell upper management it was my fault. I tried to speak up once. I went to HR, showed them some emails that didn't match what Hal was saying. They listened, nodded, and told me they'd look into it. A week later, I got a coaching session about my communication style. After that, I shut up. I started saving everything. Every email, every draft, every time-stamped file. I used a home computer and an encrypted USB drive. I even screen recorded some of our internal systems, just in case anyone tried to alter files later. What I found over the years was worse than I expected. Hal wasn't just pinning things on me. He was lying to clients, changing numbers in audit reports, skipping required checks on environmental reviews. He was cutting corners to meet deadlines, then blaming others when it backfired. Sometimes it was me. Sometimes others who'd already left the company. And the higher-ups? They either didn't notice, or they didn't care. I held on to the evidence because I didn't know what else to do. I was scared of losing my job. I had bills. My dad had passed away, and I was helping my mom with her mortgage. Quitting wasn't an option. So I stayed, and they kept dumping on me. Eventually, the company started a restructuring. Layoffs, role shifts, streamlining. I saw the writing on the wall. Hal called me into his office and said they were eliminating redundancies. I was redundant. They gave me 2 weeks to wrap things up. On my last day, they held a goodbye party in the break room. It was fake and forced. Cheap sheet cake, warm soda, bad jokes. Then Hal raised his plastic cup and said, "We're really going to miss having someone to blame when things went wrong." Everyone laughed. Loudly. People clapped. Someone actually whistled. I stood there, smiling, like I was part of the joke. But I wasn't. The next day, I finalized my files. I cleaned them up, sorted them into folders: audit fraud, client deception, falsified reports, internal manipulation. The following Monday, I created a new Gmail account, masked the IP using a VPN, and sent out an email to every single employee at Dove's Ton. Subject line: Truth always comes due. In the body, I wrote, "This company has made a habit of blaming the innocent, rewarding the corrupt, and risking legal exposure to protect a few egos." The attached documents speak for themselves. These are not opinions. These are facts. It's time you all knew the truth. Attached were dozens of files. Proof of what Hal and others had done. Files that couldn't be denied or edited. Some of them had internal names on them. Others had client names. I didn't sign the email. I just clicked send. Then I waited. By Tuesday, my old coworkers were texting me. Did you see that email? What the hell is going on? Did you send that? I ignored them all. By Wednesday, the company issued an internal investigation. The IT department tried to trace the sender, but I'd covered my tracks well. By Thursday, a government client pulled out of a project. By Friday, I was put on administrative leave. And that was only the beginning. 2 weeks after the email went out, Dovestun Consulting stopped being a quiet little firm. The news hadn't hit the public yet, but inside the company, everything was chaos. Meetings were being held behind closed doors. Lawyers were showing up in black cars. Whole departments were suddenly working remote because they were being questioned. And then came the leak. One of the employees forwarded the email and attachments to a reporter at a local Dallas-Fort Worth news station. I didn't know until I saw the headline pop up on my phone. Exclusive. Internal documents expose environmental audit fraud at Fort Worth firm tied to state contracts. I felt cold when I saw it. I hadn't wanted it to go public, at least not yet. I wanted them to fall apart from the inside first. But now it was out. The email I'd written was quoted word for word in the article. They even mentioned my old department, and though I hadn't signed my name, people were starting to guess. That's when things turned personal. I got a call from a block number. I didn't answer. Then I got a letter in the mail. No return address. It was just a single piece of paper with 2 words. You're done. I knew it had to be Hal. Or someone close to him. Maybe one of the other managers who had been covering things up. I stayed quiet. I didn't talk to the press. I didn't respond to messages. I waited. But that wasn't the end of it. A week later, I was denied for a job I'd interviewed for. I called the recruiter to follow up, and she hesitated before saying, "They received some anonymous info suggesting you were involved in a breach of confidentiality at your last job." I knew right then Dovestun was trying to smear me. They couldn't prove I'd sent the email, but they were trying to punish me anyway. I decided I wasn't going to play defense anymore. I reached out to the reporter who wrote the article. Her name was Tessa. I told her I was the source. I didn't give her everything, but I offered her more emails, files, audio clips. I met her in a small diner in Arlington, middle of the day, crowded enough to feel safe. She listened to everything. I showed her documents that hadn't been part of the first dump. Stuff that tied Hal directly to forged environmental impact statements, reports signed off without proper testing, money that was supposed to go toward site safety but got funneled into consulting bonuses. Tessa asked me, "Why are you doing this now? You could have walked away." I told her, "Because they laughed while they stabbed me in the back. And they think they can get away with it." That's when we began planning the next article. This time, names would be named. And I would speak. On the record. But before the story could go live, something happened that changed everything. Hal showed up at my apartment. I saw him from the peephole. He knocked once. I didn't answer. He just stood there, hands in his pockets. I waited. After a minute, he called out through the door. "You made your point. You think this ends with me? You were never that important, you know." I said nothing. After another few seconds, he walked away. I watched him leave through the blinds. I called Tessa that night and told her I was all in. No more hiding. I'd burned the bridge already. I might as well set fire to what was left. We prepared everything for publication. And just before the piece went live, Tessa got a tip from someone inside Dovestun. Turns out, Hal wasn't the only one forging numbers. Another senior manager, Terry Martinez, was tied into the same mess. Except she wasn't covering her own ass. She was helping cover Hal's because they were having an affair. A long one. Terry's husband worked for the local EPA branch. This thing wasn't just office politics anymore. It was criminal. Tessa's second article was supposed to go live that Monday morning. But at 7:13 a.m., she called me, her voice shaking. "The story's been pulled," she said. "Legal flagged it. Said there's national implications now. They got a warning from someone in the state attorney's office." I sat up in bed. "What the hell does that mean?" She hesitated. "It means there's more going on here than I knew. Than you knew." Over the next few days, pieces started coming together. Quietly, an old coworker named Jake reached out to me through a burner account. He used to work in logistics and budgeting. He left Doveston 3 years ago, no explanation. I'd almost forgotten about him. He said he had been pushed out for asking too many questions about consulting disbursements. He sent me a spreadsheet he had saved from his last month on the job. Hidden in plain sight were over 24 disbursements labeled subconsulting fees, routed through a Shell LLC registered to an address in Pflugerville, Texas. That address? A P.O. box, but tied to a woman named Sarah Klein. Sarah was Terry Martinez's sister. Now things were spiraling into a whole different zone. What we were looking at wasn't just workplace fraud. It was money laundering. Tessa started working with a contact at a federal agency she wouldn't name. She told me, they've had eyes on Doveston before, but this is the first time someone from the inside gave them everything. Within 2 weeks, subpoenas were issued. Not public yet, but I heard whispers from Jake and 2 others still on the inside. Terry had gone on sabbatical. Hal was spotted meeting with a criminal defense attorney in Dallas. And someone from the accounting department had been escorted out of the building, no explanation given. That's when the scare tactics started again. Someone slashed my tires. All 4. Another time, I came home and my door lock looked like someone had messed with it. Nothing was missing, but things felt slightly out of place. A drawer in the kitchen open. A picture frame tilted. They were trying to shake me. I wasn't scared, not really, but I started sleeping with a baseball bat next to the bed. And then came the biggest twist yet. Tessa sent me a copy of a leaked email. It was from Doveston's in-house counsel to the executive team. Dated a year before I was laid off. In the email, the lawyer warned that I was a potential threat due to my access to internal data and my growing complaints. She advised that termination and pre-litigation framing might be necessary. They'd planned to ruin me before I even knew I was leaving. They didn't just blame me for mistakes. They targeted me. And it wasn't just Hal. It was the entire leadership chain. They saw me as a weak link, a loose end. They thought I'd go quietly. I didn't. The second article went live a month later. This time, it didn't just mention Doveston. It named names. Hal Garvey, Terry Martinez, Sarah Klein, the shell companies, the fake audits, the money that was supposed to help clean up polluted land in South Dallas, rerouted into consulting bonuses and expedited compliance fees.
And it named me.
The whistleblower. I expected fallout and I got it. Good and bad. The good, more people came forward. 3 ex-employees emailed Tessa with their own files. One woman had kept detailed records of safety violations buried by Terry's team. Another had emails from Hal pressuring staff to sign off on incomplete work for billing purposes. The bad. Doveston hit back. They filed a civil lawsuit against me for defamation, breach of confidentiality, and unlawful disclosure of proprietary information. It was garbage, but it cost me everything. I had to cash out my savings to get a lawyer. I almost sold my car. The pressure was unbelievable. Friends backed away. My phone blew up with unknown numbers. I lost 2 job offers after background checks. The same whisper campaign that followed me before came back stronger. But then something happened I didn't see coming. Terry flipped. She went to federal investigators and made a deal. She turned over internal communications, backup drives, meeting notes. She gave them enough to show that the fraud wasn't isolated. It was baked into Doveston's model. And in exchange, she got immunity. Hal didn't. When the feds came for Hal, it was early morning. They took him from his house in handcuffs. His face ended up on the local news. Local executive indicted in fraud, conspiracy, and tampering with government documents. His voice cracked as he tried to answer questions, muttering no comment, while cameras rolled. He ended up taking a plea deal. 5 years in federal prison. No parole. Doveston?
Gone.
The firm collapsed within 6 months. Clients left. Contracts were canceled. Employees scattered. The owners tried to save it with a merger, but it was too late. Too many lawsuits. Too much heat. I settled the civil case. My lawyer pushed hard and proved they had retaliated against me. They ended up paying me a decent amount. Not enough to undo what I'd lost, but enough to breathe again. And me? I messed up too. I should have left sooner. I let them use me for too long. I thought loyalty mattered. It didn't. Not there. I also didn't mean for it to blow up this big. I just wanted people to know the truth. I didn't think people would lose jobs or that families would get dragged into it. But once it started, I couldn't stop it. And honestly, I don't regret it. They made a joke out of me, used me, laughed while I bled inside. They thought I was weak, disposable. Now, every time someone searches Hell's name, they see a mugshot. Every time someone types Dove's Ton Consulting, they get a list of court filings. Every exec who smiled at my farewell party is now either unemployed or under investigation. They raised a glass to my failure. But I gave them something they'll never forget. The taste of their own poison.